more dangerous than Magnus Carlsen is an angry Magnus Carlsen.
That's right. Yeah, Evian should sign a deal with him after that finale. Another Catalan, and Alireza did have a little bit of time during the break to patch up some holes. He plays a completely different approach against the Catalan. Earlier we saw in the previous game the c7, c6 approach, which is recommended by a lot of books. Here we see a wide open center with an early c5 strike. Very risky approach by Alireza. He better know this well, because I've seen Black lose a lot of games out of the opening in this line.
To me, the explanation for this kind of an opening reply to the Catalan instead of a more solid strategic fight is that Alireza wants to stick to his style of play. He wants to, regardless of needing only a draw to win the match, he's got the black pieces, this is the Armageddon, you play with time odds, no increment on the clock, but he's saying that I want to rely on what is my biggest strength, which are these kind of positions, because the one game, Daniel, Alireza did get outplayed in was the Catalan, where he again went for a cautious approach. So I like this switch up a lot by Black.
Also, for people just tuning in, there's no increment in the Armageddon, so flagging is very much on the table. That's why the time advantage is so much more significant without the 2-second increment. But the player's primary allegiance is to the position on the board. You can't over-rely on your time advantage, because we know what Alireza is capable of with just a couple seconds on his clock, with or without increment. Right now, it's an early critical moment for Magnus. Firouzja threatening c takes d4. Magnus just spits in the face of that threat. He says, come at me, take my pawn. He's going to drop his queen back and then recapture it with his knight, presumably. I don't know. I like the way that Alireza has handled the opening. His knight can come into the game. It doesn't feel like Magnus has a big advantage, maybe any advantage at all, in this wide open center position.
And it's a must-win game for Magnus. He has to win with the white pieces in the Armageddon. If not, it goes into the grand final reset. But right now, it's just started. And we see that Alireza, with his bid, did not have to give up too much of a deficit on the clock to get the result odds. So I think it was a really smart psychological bid by him. And look at that, he just keeps going. He plays e5, pushing the white knight back before carrying on with the development. So far, Daniel, it looks like white's the one who's got a little bit of a cagey setup. The activity on black side, but the e5 pawn is hanging. Do you need to defend it, or can you go for activity with bishop to f5?
Well, the e5 pawn is hanging, but the b3 square is also hanging, and I think Alireza investing his time trying to calculate his weights, just like a forced draw. Bishop f5 is what is on my mind. Bishop e6 is sort of the sister idea, right? Trying to put all of your eggs in the knight b3 basket, and if Magnus is forced to play an incredibly passive move like knight b1 to d2 to cover this square, that's really, really bad news for him. Alireza could also send his e-pawn down the board, and yet I think Magnus has to play knight b to d2. There's no way that he can get away with taking on e5 and allowing knight b3, because he just loses his entire queen side in the event of a knight jump to b3. So very encouraging signs early for Firouzja. Magnus is maintaining his 2-minute time advantage, but definitely no advantage on the board.
a bullet in just a few moments. And Daniel, I think the clock will play a role, but Alireza, his pieces are just getting more and more active.
If anybody's capable of this comeback, it's Magnuns Carlsen. The problem is Bishop C2, Knight E3 is what I'm not understanding. Bishop C2, Knight E3. Knight E3 sets up the threat of Rook F1 and Rook D1, so I'm not seeing how Magnuns keeps winning chances alive.
Can you take on H7? Take the knight
Yeah,
first?
but King F4, that's a draw. You've made a draw, congrats, but you haven't won.
And we're seeing that being played out. King to F4, nicely called out, Daniel. That is his mat strategy. He doesn't want more than a draw at this point. King G5.
Listen, it's easy to blunder. Like Rook D8, you mouse slip, you play Rook C8, you lose. So let's wait for this game to over.
Best in the world.
B4. Let's do it. Let's go.
Are you really sensing some chances for white here?
No.
But you know, as long as there are pieces, and the rook cannot sacrifice itself for the bishop ever, because even if you manage to pick up the 2 pawns in the bargain, white's king is very close to the queen side pawns. So Alireza will never be able to go into a complete king pawn ending, which is a draw, by sacrificing his rook back for that bishop. As long as the moves have to keep going, but it's Magnuns who's now low on time. It's 1.5 minutes for him.
But the other problem is Alireza can even if things go so wrong that he has to give up his rook. He can give up his rook. If he can eliminate the G and B pawns, Magnuns will have the wrong color pawn. There is literally the only way that this game ends in a win for Magnuns is a mouse slip. And Alireza is a premier blitz and bullet player. Even if he had 15 seconds with no increment, he'd have a chance to draw this. This is an Alireza moment right now. It's a Kodak moment. Is it a mouse slip moment?
It's not. And the moves are being repeated, but Magnuns, he shifts it up. But the thing is, the king has got no way in. The black rook remains on the 4th rank, tying down that white king to not surpass enemy lines, not go over to the 5th rank. It's impossible for Magnuns to make progress here.
My cat could draw this, and I don't even have a cat. Just take on G4, get your king back to H6. This is too easy for Mr. Firouzja. And still, look at how he's taking his time. He's not rushing.
Rook
and
B8.
Magnus is resigned.